Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus taking a look at the second Venksta Impossible Toys joint, the Tetra Squadron. We'll be looking at 5 of the opening 7 versions, so strap in for a trip with Banshee, Rebelor, Prankstor, Smashor, and Boostor. Requiem and Solar Blast couldn't make it to the party, I guess, because their names don't end in or. This Tetrajet mode is really the main event of these guys, as they're one of the first, if not the first, attempt to have a curvy G1 tetrahedral aircraft mode actually transform. Not stylized, not angular, but clean and smooth pyramids of the sky. And they do a good job. The sides of the quote-unquote wings seem like they had their edges snipped off, and the cleanliness certainly doesn't wrap all the way around the bottom of the vehicle mode. But viewed from any other angle, they hit the keynotes right on the mark. There are also 3 pieces of landing gear you can fold up, which each have rolling wheels, if you're that kind of person that likes to roll jets. The basic trio of Banshee, Rebelor, and Prankstor are very simple, with Banshee coming off a little too dull. He has less jet mode paint apps than the other two, and really could have used some more splashes of blue on his largely gray side panels. The central core looks great on all 3 of them, though, with very bold color strips and blitzingly yellow cockpit windows that, oddly enough, can open up. The rear section also has a ton of greebly sculpting that could really come to life with a bit of extra paint work. The Conehead Tetrajets are actually a lot more interesting. Their unique G1 wing designs carry over, adding a lot more spice to the overall look, and Boostor in particular has a much more engaging color layout, in part thanks to his VTOL turbines. This is where the Conehead domination of the Tetra Squad releases begins to show its hand, but to truly understand, we'll need to transform them. This is a lot easier if you pull off the null rays before getting your fingers into these guys. Then the unpeeling begins. There are a lot of tabs and pegs locking the Tetrajet mode together, and you basically have to undo all of them to start. It may seem daunting up front, but it is a lot less scary in practice once you see how it works. After that, the main transformation comes in the form of a crazy, flippy series of motions to form the chest and wing pack, along with some intricate panel folding on the legs. The pleasant surprise is that a majority of this stuff relocks into place for robot mode, with the only notable gaps in that being the wings and the nose cone. The wings do have a clear place to perch, but a clip on the nose cone for the backpack would have been a perfect topper. Still, it's a very esoteric transformation that doesn't recycle many tricks I've seen before, and it's another main draw of the toy. The third of the trinity of positives is the payoff of the transformation. The curvy, smooth Tetrajet turns into what is ostensibly the classic Seeker robot mode with different wings. The proportions are obviously not quite the same, but the basic idea is there. Speaking of proportions, this guy's proportional weakness is in his hips. They're kind of wide and mounted just a bit too high up the pelvis for my tastes. His actual limbs and torso look great, kind of like a beefier version of the classic Seeker mold. And then there's the head. It looks a bit large, mostly due to the helmet part being a tad wide. However, the face sculpt simply doesn't match up to the rest of the toy, and I really hope an alternative can crop up sometime soon. It doesn't look like it'd be hard to swap something in, either. One screw in the back of the head and bam! Mushmouth be gone. And thus we reach the second part of the Conehead domination scheme. Their head sculpt is way better, with defined cheekbones and superior proportions. The mouth is still kinda mushy, but there's enough to work with here that a simple pass with a liner pen could make it look alright. Finally, all these guys have a unique robot butterfly style of wing going on. The wingtips can be folded back out if you want something more bat-like, and the wingspan can be shrunken down if you feel it's too wide. So let's see if these impossible toys are also imposable! Oh god, what's my life? The head's on a swivel joint, very simple swivel joint, just turns left and right, and that's all you're gonna get out of it. The transformation joint means unhooking all kinds of stuff, so if you want to tilt his head down, then he looks silly. So, don't. His shoulders are on universal hinges. They swivel forward and hinge outward. There's a bicep swivel, and there's a double-jointed elbow. You have to bend the bottom joint of the elbow first to really get this to work, but once you do, then you get this really deep curl, and I like that. I don't know what I want to do with it yet. You can't do the classic anime pose because the wrist doesn't swivel, so you can't have him going like Misete, Ore no Chikara, or whatever, but I like that the option's there and that with this double-jointed hinge, the position of the arms, the arc of the arms is kind of tweakable. There's no waist joint because this thing is cutting right through the waist, so I'm not that upset. But the hips, which are pretty much the same joint as the shoulders, have one sad limitation. As you can see here, this rear skirt ends here, while this front skirt ends slightly lower. What that means is that the leg can't go a full 90 degrees forward. It kind of goes like 60, 70 degrees? I don't know, I don't want to measure. But I kind of wish this guy could have gotten his leg 90 degrees forward, because it would have meant he would have the classic 5, but with a massive amount of improvement in the limbs as well. As it is, it's not terrible. It just means that fully dynamic kicking and stuff or sitting in chairs is a little bit outside of these guys' wheelhouses. There's also a thigh swivel and a double-jointed knee, much like the double-jointed elbow, and I like the double jointing on these guys. Having fully posable limbs, ignoring this limitation here, means that even though there's no ab crunch or waist joint, these dudes still can assume a decent number of poses. There's also a joint on the foot from the transformation. Usually this means nothing, but thanks to the heel, which is adjustable and stiff enough to be used to kind of prop up this guy's weight, there's quite a few options in posing, especially if you start using that foot joint, for instance, to have like one leg back and the other forward. Usually this would be a bit wobbly. However, you fold this down till it hits the ground once you're back here, then this guy is all of a sudden able to stay standing. Pretty much, put these guys into any pose you want, then put your fingers on these things and roll them down till they hit the ground, and you're pretty much set to go. If you use these heels as adjustable spurs, this whole squadron is able to hold more poses than I thought they would be open to. You can also have them do stuff like have their legs pointed back and their pelvis thrusting out in that classic super robot style. And thanks to those heel adjustments, this is actually possible. I guess there's a counterweight as well in the large wing pack up here, but I really dig that even though they're not superposable, there's more option in here and more expression in here than anything I've seen on an Impossible Toys release to date. Also, if you don't like how wide the wingspan is, this is the official transformation as far as I know, but I kind of like compressing these in. I think it looks a bit better. So I guess that's a point of posability. The wings can move around if you really want them to, but the frame they're attached to here doesn't. So I don't know. You can totally just have these guys emote by having their wing flaps go up and down or something, whatever you want to do. Anyway, these dudes are not like super posable, but they are completely kinda okay posable. And I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of better than what I expected. So I'm having enough fun with these dudes, just putting them into crazy kind of retro style action figure poses. And with a flight stand, I think your options are still decently open. So there's still an elephant in the room when it comes to Impossible Toys, and that's plastic quality and build quality. They improved things with the Alicon, but a lot of people still remember the Valkyrie, and the Alicon had a few issues on the production side. These things have an intricate transformation, and thus a lot of people are wondering how tough they are. One thing I'll mention right off the bat is when I'm doing these tests, I'm going to pull these things off. Because, number one, they're meant to come off. Number two, they attach really snugly. But that is a snugness that means that a sharp impact can sometimes send them catapulting across the room. This is less of a trouble actually in Tetrajet mode, more of a problem in robot mode, where if you don't do anything to them, on all 5 of these guys I found even just starting to swivel them, it's kind of like the Creon waist peg. It's very slowly unseating itself until it pops out. The one on the, I guess your right, his left, I've tried modifying the peg a bit. I shaved it down a little and then used some floor polish to put some of the width back on. It's a bit less easy to unseat it, and when it does unseat, it doesn't pop out. It's kind of just properly unseats itself. So play around with them a bit if you do get these guys. If not, just, don't bump this part, because if you do, it'll do that. And I don't want to go pick it up. So I'm going to put them back over here and show you these jet modes. Now, as you've seen from the transformation, these things are very shell-like. They're kind of big, but some of that bigness comes from these big pieces being shells. So you might think, number one, these jet modes might not be very solid. That's not the case, because I've sat here squeezing and manhandling these things, and the only parts that start to come loose are some of the panelings over here. Very minorly loose, and you just kind of put them back in place, and they all have tabs that help seat them for the proper look. So these things they feel play durable. They've got also that plastic sheen, the kind of gloss you can see here that the Alicon had. It's a very retro style plastic, and not necessarily in a bad way. Also, there's lots of little pins and tabs holding this thing together, and as you saw in the transformation, it might look a bit scary pulling some of them out. This plastic apparently has an intentional flex to it, so it can actually handle bending a little bit if things, need to be slightly pulled out of the way for the sake of moving stuff around. I've transformed these things a whole bunch of times, and I have yet to lose a peg. I have yet to even stress mark a peg, so the plastic on these, I think, feels fine. Like, I could start bashing them together, and look, I unseated that panel again. There, I fixed it. Anyway, the jet modes on these, as far as I can tell, these are the most durable and well-built things I've seen out of Impossible Toys. I haven't seen anything come flying off of this, and I don't know. I'm trying, man. I'm trying to break it, and all I'm doing is unseating a tab now and then that I can pop back in place. So, I don't know. Even when transforming it, like, I gotta pull kind of hard on this side to get these things out, and it just kind of comes out fine. So, I don't know. I think these things can stand most regular collector play, unless I got, like, these are 5 really lucky examples off the factory line or something. I don't know, but I haven't seen any problems with any of that. I could, if it wasn't shaped in such a painful shape, I could probably play ball with it. I don't know. Anyway, the other thing about these guys that a lot of people are curious about is that really long joint in the transformation, at least as far as I could tell from the few reactions I've seen on Twitter. So, when you're transforming these guys, you've got this long stick here, and then this long stick here. Now, number one, it's not bending very easily. This is apparently all the same plastic, but this stuff feels a bit tougher. So, that's probably not going to break. Number two, I don't know how better to demonstrate this other than I'm going to hold it up here and start shaking it. Like, we could do this all night if you really want me to. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think these things are going to break that easy. They feel durable. This feels like Impossible Toys is still hearing the shadows of the Valkyrie, and they are continuing to react to those. Like, yeah. Also, there's some parts of this that use a clip-on construction rather than a pin, which means that if you were to snag something and yank on it, rather than breaking off, it'll just clip off. As you can see, there's like a little pair of teeth here, and there's this thingy here, and then if you push them back together, it's kind of tricky to line up with all the wings in place, but you just push it till it clicks, and boom, you're once again ready and set. Also, just in terms of stability, like, this stick here really helps because the wings will stay better in place because the main structure of them isn't moving around. All this stuff tabs together. Like, if you're going to be worried about build quality and stability on these guys, I think you're going to be okay for the most part. Like I said, these things are stress tested pretty well so far between myself and whoever the hell it was that threw one of them across the room onto the floor. I don't quite remember the details of that quote unquote drop test, but yeah, I don't know. They feel really durable. Aside from, like the arm cannons coming out, this guy's head just like get unclipped from the tab in there, but I can just pop that back in, and hey, he's back and ready for action before I take this one and throw it at him. So yeah, I'm trying to break him, man. At least I'm trying to do what would have broken the Valkyrie, and these things feel fine. I might have just scratched the hell out of the paint on the yellow cockpits. I don't know, let's take a look at one. No, it looks okay. So, yeah, in terms of build quality, I don't think you have anything to be worried about with these guys. You could give them to your kids and just fly them all around, space travel and stuff, and yeah. As far as build quality goes, I'm really satisfied with the Tetra Jet, because it can take it, man. It can take it! Man, I hope that the guy who lent me these doesn't watch this quite, Well, they're fine. Anyway, build quality-wise, you have nothing to worry about. Impossible Toys hasn't hit a plateau quite yet, but this is by far their best product to date. The hips are weird and the heads are still rather weak, but the joints are tight and both modes lock together pretty well. Also, there aren't any critical production line problems among the 5 Tetra Squad members I've checked out so far, and the feel of the joints is a welcome improvement overall. It was critical that a design this intricate with this many moving parts have a strong construction, and I feel Impossible Toys pulled off that end of the bargain. If you're interested in the idea of owning a single transforming G1 Tetra Jet, I'd recommend one of the Coneheads. They just feel more interesting to me overall, especially with their individual wing details carrying over. If you do want to go for the old trio, they still have that special seeker something when viewed ensemble. The Tetrajet modes especially look cool when they're all lined up. And that's a part of what makes me feel the best about these guys. The biggest pops are the Tetrajet mode and the really unique transformation sequence in either direction. It's a lot of fun for me to do, especially with the materials being durable enough to take how crazy it gets. The posability's not amazing, and the face sculpts bum me out, but the transformation side of these third-party transformers has given me satisfaction. I hope that Impossible Toys can keep moving up from here and strengthen their facial sculpts and body aesthetics, because it does feel like they've finally got something solid going on with their core engineering. They've just got to nail those head sculpts, because a poor portrait can really take someone out of the experience. Also, I'm happy to see these guys have been priced out lower than the Alicon, whether or not you get that early bird deal, given that they've got way more moving parts. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and I hope this video has helped you come to a decision on whether or not you want to add some transforming Tetrajet to your lifestyle. They've dropped pre-orders for 7 of them at the same time, so you've got options. Take a look if you're interested. And then, form camps and start coming at dudes who don't pick the same one you did, or just pick the same 3 you did. Or, have all the guys who bought 3, totally come at people who only bought 1, and then both of those camps can unite against the crazies who, bought 2 and not 3. I'm part of the problem.